You're listening to the Southampton Delivery Podcast, a podcast dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans.
If you want to have guarantees, you have to buy a wash machine.
Fonte with a scooping header.
We don't lose a match, either we win or we learn. And today we learned.
Отдача, Остин все-таки забил.
It's infield to Mane, 25 yards out. Lovely ball for Bella. Onside, 1-0. Buffon shot. Oh my word.
Unbelievable. We ran around the pitch like Bambi on ice. It was very, very embarrassing to watch.
And now, your host, Matt Markstone.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Southampton Delivery Podcast, a podcast and newsletter dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans, and available right here on southamptondelivery.com. My name is Matt Markstone. I am the host of the show. No matter where you are, no matter how you may be listening, whether this is your first time or you've been here before, thanks for making the show part of your day. I hope that you enjoy it. And if you are out Christmas shopping or you have Christmas shopping to do, you can put this in your ears while you do that. If you're already done with your Christmas shopping, because some people in the UK Christmas shop in October because you're weird, then I guess good for you. Because while Nathan Redmond was being hauled off at halftime in our loss to West Ham on Saturday, I was two-footing Elsa dolls in the aisles of Walmart and leaving tackles in on kids running unobstructed through the garden section. I figured that had to be stopped. So anyway, we are here this week with Tom Deacon, and hopefully, Saints proved not to be a joke in the long run. But Tom, of course, works for the club. He hosts a number of events. He is also a comedian. You can find him on Instagram at Tom Deacon Comedy, on Twitter at Tom H. Deacon, and you can get all of his websites. If you need a pick-me-up, right? Like you need something to make you smile now, you can go to tomdeacon.co.uk to pick up all of the dates for his upcoming shows. But once again, Tom's been on the show before. Tom is a lot of fun to talk to. He was hosting the pre-match live stuff on Saturday, so he was in the tunnel. He was with the players. He was living the action that was West Ham against Southampton, which was maybe not the most action we would have asked for. So anyway, Tom had one heck of a day. So we'll talk about all of that. We'll get into the match. We'll answer some of your questions and more. And with that said, let's get to it. We'll talk to you on the other side. Thanks for listening. Talk to you soon. We'd like to welcome back to the Southampton Delivery Podcast, Tom Deacon. You can find him on Instagram at Tom Deacon Comedy and on Twitter at Tom H. Deacon. You're also on Facebook. And mostly you're just in our hearts after being there today, working the pre-match show. And, you're around a lot of Saints stuff. So Tom, thanks for taking the time to do this on a not especially great day during the holiday season at Southampton. So welcome to the show.
Hey, absolute pleasure to be back again. They say your first time on the show is your well, it's basically not as good as your second. So I'm back. I feel like this is going to be a better one for me. But I'll be honest with you, I'm not bringing a lot of Christmas cheer right now. That's for sure.
That's all right. You've had, I was watching the live show beforehand, and you were out there, and you managed to dodge the sprinkler one time, and then you didn't dodge the sprinkler the second time because you were live on camera, and then I think somebody else pointed out, and I think several people probably pointed out that the team sheet they gave you had 12 players on it, which you did not announce. You caught it. They did not catch it on the live graphic, but people were upset, which is normal. I thought it would have given us a real chance to take some points from today's match had we been able to play with 12 players on the pitch.
Hey, listen, I think I don't know whether we would have still struggled. I would like to believe that we would have had that advantage. Yeah, it was a pleasure. Before the game, the usual host of it, Kenzie Benali, is away. So I filled those shoes, those hefty shoes, and I had to do the team sheet announcement. And it's fiddly with the iPad, so I get the team sheet before anybody else. And I saw that there was no changes from the last game, which I was at actually, the Newcastle game. So I went into it very confidently to do that job, and also I thought that we'd get more than no points today. So it's been an interesting day. And also, and I appreciate you not mentioning it, but I'm going to. I had my toe. Not my toe. That was Southampton Buffel, who had a toe injury. I had my car towed after the game, so I had to just pay a hefty fine to have it to be able to have it back, really. So it's been a roller coaster of a day of emotions, and I think that's what us Saints fans come to expect. It's always a roller coaster of emotions.
Yeah, you can't plan for it, right? Like it's just
No.
It is never really predictable, and it's frustrating at times. And sometimes when you're going up on the ride, it's all great. The anticipation's there and everything else, and then sometimes the team really delivers, and then sometimes it's all anticipation and then nothing, which I think is a giant letdown, like today a little bit. But I guess for people who don't know, I mean, you're around the Southampton kind of media thing a lot. You host little different events and do stuff like that, in addition to I don't want to say your real job, but your real job. And I mean, so I guess just fill people in on a little bit about what you do with Southampton, and in today's instance, you were hosting kind of the pre-match kind of live stuff. But what else? Some of the other things you do, I guess, around the team.
Okay, so around the team, first of all, started by doing hosting events for Saints Foundation, which is the charity arm of the football club. And then that led me to do match day hosting, which is essentially me pre-match letting the fans in the stadium know what they can get involved in the day, organising the halftime relay race they do, or a penalty shootout. And then I'll be in the tunnel during the game, letting the PA room know what substitutions are happening before they go on the board and the fourth official announce it. So that's basically my job. And then, as you mentioned today, I was filling in for Kenzie to do the team sheet, team news live. And then when I'm not doing that, I do the occasional vlog for the Southampton Football Club, which gets an interesting review from a lot of the fans. Some people like it, some people don't. That's the nature of the beast. Mm-hmm. So what I'll do is I'll do an away day, like I did for Newcastle. I'll go up there, give a fan's perspective of that game. And the travel up, and then that'll go on YouTube and the Southampton Facebook page as well. So that's kind of what I do, and then that's involving the club, and then outside of that, as you hinted to, do stand-up comedy and also a presenter for esports as well. So it's a mixed bag, and also a full-time Saints fan, which is the hardest thing to do. And you also said that it's difficult, unpredictable. If Saints would have won today, I'd have probably cancelled all my other plans and gone and celebrated. And that's and you'd never expect to get those wins. So immediately you get excited and then cancel everything that you had planned, because you have to enjoy those moments where we get a win.
Carl had mentioned that he had never been around Southampton on a night when they won at home. Like, he hadn't experienced Southampton on a Saturday when the team had been successful. So it took a really long time for him to kind of get to one of those nights. And I haven't had the chance to talk to him and see about, what it's like, but, you're right. Like, you can't expect it. You can't rely on it. So when it happens, you really gotta kind of enjoy it. And I think my family definitely knows the difference when Saints have played really well and won versus, a Saturday morning when before anybody else is awake, I'm already upset, which is not, it's not great. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit, as you've been traveling a lot with comedy and stuff like that. And just a little bit maybe about the internet can be a very, Twitter specifically, I'm thinking, can be a pretty harsh place. Some of the comments that came up live as you were, getting doused by the sprinkler and things like that. Is that worse or better, or, not as harsh as when somebody's sitting in the crowd and giving you that, face to face a little bit when there's a heckler or something like that?
Well, you know what? You have to have a thick skin to do stand-up comedy. And the interesting thing is I didn't see the live comments that were coming in for me doing the team news live. So I look forward to looking back at those. But for the vlog, for example, I find it quite funny. I'm a Saints fan through and through, and I went up to the away game at Newcastle, make a video to kind of represent that trip, that travel, and kind of, I guess, I don't even go in too hard about what I think about the club and what I think they should be doing. I keep it fairly light. It's just to reflect, meet other Saints fans, get their opinion, and then that's it. You don't have to watch it if you don't want to. So some of the reviews that come back, there's a brilliant one from this lad called Jake, who just puts in capitals, embarrassing, full stop. And it continues, should have a lifetime ban, the Virgin. So there you go. I don't know, how he knows, and and I hope I don't get that lifetime ban. And then you'll get other comments where people will be annoyed about the Saints shirt should only be worn over a grey hoodie. So I mean, what are you supposed to do with that sort of comment? I was wearing a black hoodie, and then someone said, "Where do they get these nuggets from?" So I mean, you have to just take it on the chin a little bit. They're quite entitled to make their comments. You'd hope that it was constructive. If they said, I really don't like it because you spend too much time doing X or Y and I really want more of this, great. You can have a conversation and improve the product you're doing. But I think it's just too easy to just say, this is, rubbish. This, I hate this or what have you. Stand-up comedy is a live thing, so you're in the moment and you try and work with it and then you leave. But those comments stick around. So, yeah, I tend not to look at them. They make me laugh, really, because I'm enjoying the job I'm doing. I'm trying to do my best. So I hope that they understand that. And if they don't, they're probably the sort of person who isn't, even if I reasoned with them, would care. So, I sort of take it like that, really.
I guess that's probably the best way. And as a teacher, I think sometimes it feels like, a 50-minute period can really feel like a long time if things are not going well. But usually the kids don't heckle you too badly because they have to come back. And at the end of the day, you determine whether or not they get to progress or not, really. And sometimes I just drop like, hey, man, I will see you. I'm really going to enjoy having, 360 days with you instead of just 180. And they just look at you and go like, I was like, and if you're not enjoying your math class, that means you're going to be back again. And they just go like, oh, dang it. And then usually it shuts them up. But I guess you don't have that as a stand-up comic.
No.
But I mean,
that's what I say. I have been funnier. It hasn't worked tonight, or but that's fine. Look, I think that the need to be liked all the time is something that I've personally in my creative life have found. I need to be liked, and then you realize even if you produce the best thing and you love it, and you like, I was on fire, and someone doesn't like it, you're like, oh, you can't. They didn't like it. That's fine. That's absolutely fine for them not to like it. You just have to keep creating and doing the thing that you enjoy. And that's not to say that any of the things that I do are ever perfect. I'm always working to make it better. These vlogs that I'm doing for the football club, I don't know what they want to do with the vlog, where they want to take it, but you try and do your best. And it's odd because a couple of the people I swear I've seen at the away games who say nothing to me and yet comment from a safe distance. So I'd actually encourage the conversation, like you would do in a comedy night. Someone says they're not enjoying it. That's not the words they use. Then I'll challenge them. I'm quite confrontational like that. But, on YouTube comments, I'm not going to spend the time replying and go, could you be a bit more descriptive about what you didn't like about my face and how did you know I was a virgin? I haven't got time for that.
That's one of the things, wearing a Saints shirt to work quite often, because my school is also the Saints, but every once in a while you just get a kid that says, your shirt says virgin. And it's like, yes, it does. It still does. It's like, I have two children. Does that help? Or, can we put that together? Or why is this a big deal? Explain to me why you think this is funny. And they don't want to, but whatever. But yeah. I guess, do you have upcoming tour dates in and around maybe Southampton or London or somewhere where people can check you out if they are interested in doing that?
Based on all the stuff I do with football, give my comedy a chance. That's what I always say. Don't base it just on my football output. I always put my live dates on my website. I've got gigs coming up always in London. So that's the best place to see that. And always live is a lot better than, watching the film stuff that I've got online. So yeah, check it out.
Yeah, we'll make sure we put the link to the website in the show notes so people can get access to it and everything. But I think we've managed to avoid talking about football for as long as we can.
All right, let's just get it. Let's just get to it because we have to. I mean, I've seen enough of Saints this season, and I still don't know the way that we can fix the problem. But I just know that whatever's happening at the moment just isn't quite working. And I think we can all agree on that.
I would have said that I would have thought that the lineup that we put out over the past couple of weeks, it seemed to be working better than anything else, and I would have said last week at Newcastle that we did everything but win. We somehow managed to lose that game. But I mean, today when the lineup sheet comes out and you can't say anything, and that's going to be the worst thing ever, is you knowing and not being able to say it. Were you surprised at all that it was the exact same other than a few changes on the bench? Or were you disappointed that maybe some of the players who maybe haven't lived up to it weren't substituted? Or what was your kind of feeling as a fan? Because I know you can't really express that when you're doing it live.
Yeah. As a fan, I see, because it's interesting because working inside the club and outside the club as a fan, my initial reaction is this is unlike every other fan, and this is ridiculous. We need to be changing. Why are they still playing? Can't we? Surely we've got another right back, and yet the rational part of my brain is like, yeah, I guess the thing is, guys, there isn't someone else, and we saw that when today, for example, Cedric got substituted off, and I don't know, like he won a Euros with Portugal. You're like, this guy has got quality, but for some reason is just unable to deliver at the moment or be able to defend at times. And yet Jack Stevens moved out that way, and then we evidently saw very quickly he was unable to cross the ball in. So sometimes when we look at the side and we think, I would change it to this person or this person. We shouldn't play Redmond. We should have Armstrong up there, but he's only come back from injury. You kind of like, sometimes you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. And sometimes it's better to have the same team gelling and playing week in, week out to try and motivate them. But yeah, it's not working. But who are you going to replace some of those players that aren't playing that well at the moment with?
Right. And especially you got guys like Valerie and things that are, viruses and things like that keep them away from the team and unable to train. Buffal's got that toe injury. It's all there. But yeah, Cedric has been a source of criticism for a lot of people. They fired a lot of abuse at him, and I think rightly so. Sometimes the defending has been questionable, but as you said, when you put somebody out there who doesn't have that skill set, it's now fullback used to be a different position where you could throw another center half out there and be fine. You'd just be Stoke City, but these guys are actually needed to go forward and take part in the offense. And when you have a guy out there who can't do that, that becomes very evident as well. And then the pace to get back and things like that is lacking and frustrating and everything else. But I mean, I guess what would you say the atmosphere was like around St. Mary's going into the evening ahead of kickoff? Because it seemed like, given what had happened over the past couple of weeks, the way we've played at home finally against teams that are around us and we need to beat and should be beating, it seemed like it would have been a little more upbeat, a little happier, and then the game just seemed to kick off and just be flat from the players. And I wonder, could you sense that beforehand? Was it the way the players, I guess, showed up and started the game? Was that counter to kind of the way the crowd was before kickoff?
I think that's a really interesting question because the general feeling I feel as a Saints fan is one of frustration. It's frustration that I see a team trying, and in other times you feel like they're not trying, and you can't understand why they look lackluster. They look like they just can't put the ball away at times. They're not clinical. So going into this game, off the back of Newcastle, where Saints played really well for like 70 minutes, and then for some reason they threw the game away because they didn't take those chances. We needed to be 2-3-0 up, and we had the chances to do that. Today, going into the match, there's something that we started to do in the stadium to try and build a bit of enthusiasm while we're waiting, while the players are warming up. It's a fan cam. It's a very American thing that's come over to like Wembley and NFL games over here in the UK. Mm-hmm. And the response was kids, young people, adults were all waving. There was a positive vibe around the stadium today. The problem that happens as soon as this kickoff, every Saints fan just suddenly, everyone's sphincter in the whole stadium just completely just shrivels up, and everyone goes, "Oh no, we're going to lose this. We're going to lose this." And we've not even, it's not even 5 minutes into the game, and everyone panics. So then the stadium goes quiet. Only the away fans are singing. we try to get something going, but we're so nervous the whole time. It's like we're the away side. So then only really did that change. Any time there's a back pass at the moment, Saints fans are just up in arms. We cannot believe it. We cannot believe the ball's going backwards. And yeah, it is frustrating. However, there's got to be method in that madness. There has to be. Ralph believes in this way of playing. And to suddenly abandon it all the time and just go long ball. Let's just try and get the ball in there. It seems counterintuitive. It's only about the last 20 minutes of the game today. There was an energy. The away fans, just the home side, right next to the away fans, were noisy throughout. I think they're fantastic. Probably the noisiest section in the stadium at the moment. And it does lift the players. But if the players don't do anything, the stadium doesn't sing for them. And then once the players start looking rattled and like they've got energy and are going for it, the stadium begins to get behind them. And it's really hard. You almost need the stadium to sing for the players, even though they're nervous about those players. And then the players will start to play better. It's a catch-22 situation, and it's every home game.
Yeah. There hasn't been a home game where we've just had it all click. I don't think even in the games we won, we played. I think I wrote a while ago, we finally played a decent 90 minutes of football. It just took us 180 minutes of game time to do it. We one good half against one team, one good half against another. And the fans come out and it's understandable because there's been such a lack of wins and a lack of goals and a lack of excitement really around the club that you're starting to see in the the NBC guys here on the broadcast are starting to point out, you can see the red seats around St. Mary's are empty. And it's like, that didn't used to be the case just a couple of seasons ago. Even through Puel's time, when people were really upset about how the football was being played, people were still filling that stadium. And now it's kind of like, well, if there's a home game and you want to go, you can go. You can probably find a ticket without much trouble. Whereas there was a real worry as an American fan planning trips and stuff is, can I even get into the stadium without, or just to see the team, or am I going to have to be, all of a sudden just standing outside, listening to the crowd, be loud. And now I guess I just get to be inside and hear them not be loud.
Yeah. I mean, but when Ward-Prowse had that free kick, against Watford, the place erupted. And then, there was this this is the Saints that I love. This is the moments at the St. Mary's, even back when I started going, when I went to the Dell, like those moments where you're just so proud to be in you've got your colours on, and you're part of something, and that was the St. Mary's. And then it turns to absolute squeaky bum time, even at that Watford game, where we're just so terrified of it's not a fortress anymore, the St. Mary's, and that's it's because we just, the belief isn't there, and I think that spreads, it seeps around the club, and I think and that's you'd expect that because that's the way it happens. But how do you turn that round? That's I think what everyone's trying to work out. It's not because you take Cedric out and then that fixes the problem. I mean, some people weren't happy about Alex McCarthy's parry. Why was no one marking John Joe Shelby at Newcastle? Why, when we were 2-0 up against Norwich, did we not absolutely go for it and hammer them to build confidence around the St. Mary's? And, it's all these questions, but it's almost too simplistic thinking that one change will fix it. I personally think that Ralph should be the manager and should continue to be the manager because he will work out the problem eventually. But having said that, I remember being on this podcast before and you said, do I think that Mark Hughes should stay or go? And I said at the time, I was like, but that's how I am as a person. I was like, well, look, you've got to give him the time. And then retrospectively, I was like, he should have gone a lot sooner.
Yeah, but I totally understand that because I think I'm much the same way. As you want to believe in the guy that's there because to almost, I think for me sometimes to admit that you don't shows there's really something wrong, right? Like you want to believe that they're in the situation, they have the tools to be able to get out of it. And maybe this doesn't carry any weight now, but I really do believe that Ralph is the guy to do it. Like I think we are fortunate to have him. I think he definitely went through a weird period of substitutions and weird decisions and things like that earlier in the season. But I think he's kind of maybe they coming out of the most recent international break, they really found something that was working, and it just didn't work today. And I don't. The other thing I said was this is the inconsistency is the most consistent thing about the team. Like you never know what's going to happen when they show up, and it's frustrating. And West Ham's first goal was coming. There was no, it didn't look like we had a chance at scoring at all. And then when they made that kind of flowing play down the line, like, you could just kind of see it, like which one of these guys is going to put it in. Cause I almost just wish he would have just really rifled it into the corner and made it a real beautiful goal. But now it's just a goal that we conceded that cost us, the game, which sucks.
And he was the guy that hadn't scored for 2 months. Of course, St Mary's the place he will come back and score. It was, for West Ham, there was one fantastic player on the field for them, and that was Mikel Antonio, ex-Saints. I think we'll all remember that on the Johnston's Paint Trophy. He was in our team. Antonio he just looked so dangerous. The pace he had, the strength. That VAR disallowed goals for him. Unfortunate. Yeah, it was a handball, but he was electric, and I think that really affected the Saints' defense. They were like, well, hang on, we have to manage this guy. Stevens isn't going to catch him. Bednarak isn't going to catch him. Cedric got gassed a couple of times by West Ham players. Bertie's pushing forward. When Bertrand has the ball in the box, I'm thinking, well, he's got as good a chance as anyone else of scoring at the moment. So I think Antonio was lights out, fantastic for West Ham. And we definitely didn't turn up in that first half. That goes without saying.
Maybe we should talk a little bit about the goal itself. Like you said, Antonio was great, and there have been I think he's had injury issues and everything else, and he's one of those guys that you watch. And I remember early on watching Saints and not realizing that he had been at Saints, because you first turn on the TV, you don't really know who it is, and you just see him play, and you're like, hey, that guy's pretty good. He's fast, he's strong, he's got all these kind of attributes, and he seems to give teams trouble. And he's just fun to watch sometimes. And then you start learning a little bit more about him. You go, man, like he was at Saints and we don't have him, but he's not one of the guys that people talk about as, one of the ones we lost necessarily, but yeah, you see him, he's going to come back. And of course he plays well here. Of course, the guy who hasn't scored in 2 months scores against us, but his Antonio's kind of initial pace just to get to that ball and keep it from going out of bounds. The intelligent kind of calm pullback. I thought that guy, I forget who crossed the ball, but I thought initially that shot that would have led to a shot immediately. Like the pullback would have resulted in a shot, which I think we would have had covered, but instead he crosses it, and then just the nice calm header down and then the finish. So overall, one of those goals that you would, it's just nice to. It would be great to watch and say, hey, that's a really nice goal from a team, as long as it's not against your team. But what happens to the crowd when that happens? Do you see? I mean, did heads down or boos, or what's the kind of reaction in the stadium at that point?
I remember looking out and just distraught. I'm slapping the wall. I have been told a few times to stop throwing my water bottle down in the tunnel, which the problem is that I'm a Saints fan, and I'm in the tunnel, but I've got to be, professional. But Ralph is annoyed. He's working out who wasn't tracking back, who wasn't doing this. He's then relaying it to the rest of the team. And then, you look onto the field and like Højbjerg or, James Ward-Prowse are trying to, clap the team and like, we've got to get up for this. But, it's not that it's booing. It's just like, knew that was going to happen. I mean, I reckon that would be the number one phrase used as soon as that goal went in, knew that was going to happen. That's the Southampton phrase at the moment, because we just know that that's the 12th game now we haven't kept a clean sheet. And a goal's there. It's just whether we can manage to score more than the opposition at the moment. And so the boos, no, just the disappointment. And then just having to listen to West Ham celebrate. We don't get to celebrate. I'm envious of other teams coming to St Mary's and getting to cheer and celebrate.
Yeah.
You're like, I kind of remember what that was like. It's a distant feeling, which I guess we don't have a lot of.
Yeah, I don't think we've beaten West Ham in some time. I think this scoreline was better than what it has been in the past. But I will forever hit West Ham because that's my first experience seeing the team, and it was not a good result. Away at the London Stadium, but it happens. But coming out of halftime, Ralph decides to change it up a little bit.
Redmond off.
Yeah, that's the second time now in a couple of weeks that he's been pulled off. And the last time Ralph said he wasn't brave enough, which I think in America, we don't use that phrase, is not something that we use to describe athletes very often. And I don't necessarily know that it's an English thing either. I think it has to just be, one of those things that seems to, maybe it's a literal translation from something they use in Germany or Austria. But I think that's a good word, is you look at when they go into challenges or when they're just willing to take a risk and they don't. And so with that, it's like you're down 1-0, but you're going to pull off an attacker and put on an extra midfielder. And I don't know, like, what was your, I guess, what were your thoughts about that? And was that a surprise to you, given what you had seen?
No, I think doing a bit of research about the Saints midfield at the moment, Romeo has won more tackles in midfield than any other player. I think in terms of what I know that he's got, I think he has got the most tackles for Southampton as a player, ball-winning tackles that he's had. I think it was about 41 more today. But he doesn't have the pace in the midfield. So Redmond was actually, to be fair, doing a few, step overs, trying to make the defender make a mistake. It didn't pay off. But you know what? I think Ralph made a tactical decision and an awareness to say, look, we need someone to just sit in front of the centre-backs to just give us a bit of extra protection right now, so that we can allow someone like Long to push out wide, or Danny Ings and Gineppo to be a bit more kind of. It was to try and counteract without losing the game from West Ham hitting us on the break again.
Sure.
So I think it made perfect sense to me, but it makes me quite sad that you're thinking, well, Redmond is the attacking man, but it's just no confidence there. And then you look at the bench as well for the possible changes he could have made. Che Adams is that the kid. He's a kid and he has no confidence at the moment. But I know that he'll come good at some point. It's just when, and please can it be soon? And then you've got Stuart Armstrong, who's shot of confidence, and yet last season, because he hasn't had enough playing time. Mm-hmm. So who can you possibly bring on to change things up? Where is the confidence in that team? And that's why Danny Ings is staying on the field as long as possible, because he's the guy that believes he can score. So Redmond, if he's no confidence, I'd rather shore up that midfield, and it almost worked, you could say. But whether Redmond should not start the next game and Romeo should sit in front of the centre back pairing, that almost sounds negative, like we're not attacking, but it might shore up the midfield and aim to get a clean sheet in our next game.
Yeah, it might just allow us to have that little bit more confidence, and we can push to give a little bit more risk going forward because we know we have somebody kind of sweeping up behind us. You know?
And he was. I thought he was brilliant. When he came on, he's hungry to win that ball. That's his job. That's the only thing. And he's good at heading the ball. And if Højbjerg makes any more mistakes, like letting the ball go away from him and a wayward pass, then Romeo's there to pick up the pieces.
Mm-hmm. And the next one's a big one too. I'm with Villa, or us going away to Villa, so it's going to be you would expect maybe a little bit different team selection going away to a team maybe. So there's the chance there that happens. But I think it was we need to do something. I think in terms of the formation to. I guess just allow the team to go forward a little bit, and then I'm talking about a couple of weeks ago when Romeo was dropped after not being terrible, right? Like he wasn't playing badly. It was just he had to be sacrificed as event. And you look at if you're going to play two men in midfield only, I think Ward-Prowse and Højbjerg have to be those two because they're the only two that can really turn the ball over and get going forward. And because Romeo is just a true holding midfielder, he's not going to do some of those other things, which is fine, but. Today to kind of counteract West Ham, I guess that is a good plan. And then I guess would you say the second half was better from Saints? Was there more life there? I had to go. I will say that I went into Walmart with more vigor and attacking prowess than our team showed in the first half. I put in some tackles even to get to what I needed, but that's okay. We're all still here, and. Was the second half a lot better from Saints?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think there was momentum, there was hunger on that field. That yes, you can bemoan the fact that they didn't score, etc., but fundamentally they looked like they wanted that more. Do you know what I mean? The first half, I was like, are we playing for a draw here? Now, do you know what I mean? Like, we're going in 1-0 down. Is that our emphasis? And the second half, Stuart Armstrong coming on, Jay Adams came on eventually, but they were just going for it. I mean, Danny Ings hit the frame of the goal twice, I believe, and a goal was disallowed because of a Gineppo foul. But they were going for it. They were hungry. That's how I want them to start. As soon as in the first half, that's the passion and intensity I want them to play at. And then you know what? Hey, if we can get a goal and then have to defend for our lives, brilliant. But we can't start a game as sloppily and as slowly as we did against West Ham today. Because at Newcastle, we seemed up for it. We held the game for 70 minutes and then it all fell apart. So it's which one do you want? Lose the game in the first half and then potentially get back into it in the second, or just be brilliant for 70 minutes and then lose it. It's one or the other at the moment, but better performance in the second half.
All right. I guess any players, as you look down the team sheet and the performances they put in, I mean, anybody stand out for any sort of praise based on how they kind of came out in the second half, or was everybody just kind of okay, or was it only Danny Ings that really was offering, I guess, the real threat and drive? I saw some people on Twitter point out that it was only Ings. That's the reason I asked, that really looked hungry and stuff like that. Was that kind of your feeling as well watching the match?
Yeah, I do believe that, without Danny Ings, it's just, I mean, how the man's got, I don't know how many more years Danny Ings will play at this top level with his knee injury and what he's come back from and his hamstrings now. But he's just hungry. He's Southampton through and through in the fact that he is running after every ball. He wants it. Sure, there's moments where a little bit of skill or a pass that he should have played a little bit earlier goes awry, but you don't mind because he just looks hungry for it. So I kind of agree with Twitter on that he's that one guy that stands out. Just because the person who shouts the loudest probably sometimes has the least to say. I'm trying to make that connection in terms of the player that runs around and doesn't do much and is shouting all the time. We feel like, they want it more. So sometimes the calm influence of Romeo, I thought he did really well when he came on, in terms of no more goals were let in, and he gave attacking players, he allowed Ward-Prowse to push forward a bit more and Højbjerg. But yeah, I think the main problem is just they all just look short of confidence, and as soon as they pass the ball backwards, the whole stadium's on their back. And so you're like, if you wanted to make anybody nervous and more tense, that would be one way of doing it.
Yeah, just keep. I mean, I think we've talked about it on the show before, but like, you make a mistake and then the person who you've now made angry by them making the mistake continues to yell at you while you try to rectify the mistake, and that never goes well. Like, just the drill sergeant in your face, that doesn't fill people with. You want somebody to be calm and be able to kind of make the changes and things like that. So I totally understand that. Anyway, I think we've answered one of the questions here from Kevin McGee, who's one of the patrons of the show. And he said one of the questions was Redmond wasn't playing well at halftime, but why down 1-0 would Romeo be the change? And I think we've kind of gone through that in detail. So appreciate you providing some insight there, and thanks to Kevin for sending that in. Kevin is one of the patrons of the show. He gets a priority for having his questions answered each and every week. So Kevin, there you go. Thanks for that. But I mean, what does this do for us going forward now? This is a weekend where we had, a chance to really pick up, ground, and we could have jumped over West Ham here. We could have been, not out of the relegation battle because it seems like half the table's in it, but this was a chance to kind of dislodge ourselves from the bottom. And I mean, we just left it late, and now we have Aston Villa next week. That's another big one. If we allow them 3 points, we're back to just 2 results from getting out of the bottom 3, which is, exactly what we fought so hard to get away from.
It's bleak and it's frustrating, and it's so annoying because Newcastle were, let me choose a word carefully here, they were rubbish, like full on rubbish. Like, no wonder they're getting on Steve Bruce's back, because the football they're playing is dross. And it goes back to when we were complaining about Claude Puel, and we were like, this football is dross. but we weren't talking about relegation when he was managing the side. So you get to choose what you want, really. Newcastle weren't good. They were there for the taking. West Ham, they've got one goal. They had a goal disallowed. I was never really worried about them scoring another one. Maybe they'd hit us on the counter-attack, and there were moments where I was getting a bit nervy. But really, when you think about it, what other chances did they really have? There was one bit towards the second half of the second half. They had a chance where it fell to one player and he put the ball over. But other than that, I was like, they're there for the taking, and that's frustrating. And then you look at Chelsea, who didn't help us out today by losing to Bournemouth. The easy games that are there for the taking, we throw away, and the hard games, we sometimes think, oh, we weren't that bad there. It's just we need to be more motivated and up for these games that are winnable. We just have to get across the line and win them.
Yeah, and I mean this run of fixtures that we've been looking forward to all season, because they're games we should have picked up points. Like we left them there against Everton, which I think at the beginning of the season you wouldn't have expected Everton to be that far down the table. But you would have expected us to be able to do something against Newcastle just because they haven't been great over the past couple of seasons. And now you have Aston Villa, and then you got to turn around and play Chelsea. And then, you get Crystal Palace and then Tottenham. And then all of a sudden things are different, because now you got to go back away to Leicester. And we'll see how that goes. And there's an FA Cup draw in there against Huddersfield, which I don't think anybody's that excited about ever. That's the one game on my schedule that is scheduled for 7:01 a.m., not 7 a.m. like the rest of the Saturday matches. So I don't understand what's happening there. Maybe they're going to give Huddersfield an extra minute to get down to wherever they're coming from. So,
yeah. But that game, you're thinking, this could be the confidence booster game. This could be the game that could just lift the spirits of I don't know, because I feel like that's a pressure game where you're thinking, if we don't win this, how bad are we? So the players go out thinking, well, how bad are we if we can't win this? The pressure on them. And I know we expect them to walk through water because of the money they get and everything else, but they're human. Like, they're out there. I see them in the tunnel beforehand, and they're geeing each other up, and they're trying to get each other going to go out there on the field. And I see that in the tunnel, and not every fan gets to see that. And it's not like they're just standing there silently. They're loud, and they're trying to come out pumped up. It's just not working. So do we as Saints fans think the quality is just not there? I mean, the only good thing is maybe we might buy someone in January that lifts the mood, lifts the spirit. But it's I just can't put my finger on it. Why? I look at Aston Villa and I think we'll probably lose that. Look at Chelsea, that's away from home. We'll probably lose that. Crystal Palace at home, they'll come up. I mean, how does Roy Hodgson get that team winning? I don't know. We'll probably lose that. We'll lose the Tottenham. I can't. And that pessimism kicks in, and what would it be the situation that Huddersfield's the only game we win in the next 5?
Oh my gosh.
How depressing would that be? But I know that for a fact that Ralph is in the Staplewood. He's in his office. Gets in at 8 a.m. He doesn't leave till about 7 every day. So it's not as if they're taking time off. Those guys are working really hard. They've had good training this week. I heard from some of the guys who work for the team, and yet on the field it just doesn't come to. So if we could all just put on our wish list for Santa this year, that the team find that gel, that missing link. I think that would help everybody. I think.
Well, I actually had that written down here. I was going to ask you, what's on your wish list for Saints? You get one big present, right, and then one stocking stuffer. Like, what are you asking for? And would the gel be the big one? Is that it, or is that the stocking stuffer that Saints need?
Some people think I'm a bit odd that I'm not asking for a certain player I don't think it's a one player fix for this team, and I don't think it's a whole exodus of players like being kicked out. Like we just need one good goalkeeper and he's in Scotland. That banter, that joke. If I hear that one more time, I want the players to have a shot of confidence. Each and every one of them, even if they haven't got their form and their mum hasn't said they can sign for this injection. They have to have the injection of confidence because, those like Buffal, unfortunately he wasn't on the bench. He wasn't someone we could turn to. The guy, I don't know why he's hitting items in his house with his foot, but he's got that creativity, that flair, that spark. If they could all play with a bit of that flair that Buffal has at times, like I'm not saying he's the best defender, I'm not saying anything else, but just that flair to just have a no care attitude, but want to just get those points. I feel like that shot of confidence would do the whole team wonders, and also a couple of other players. But that's not important. It's right now I take that team to just be confident when they step onto the field at St Mary's or they're playing away.
Okay. Well, so we got a shot of confidence, a little bit of gel, and I think that probably is it. It's they're going to open it and go, this is not the most exciting thing. And I remember I had one aunt who always, birthdays, Christmas, everything was a savings bond, and it's like, well, thanks a lot. This is nothing. And then now, when I turned 18 and I was able to use them, and I helped buy a car, it was great. And now I'm that guy. I give people savings bonds, and it's weird to make that switch. But I'm not giving people injections, so I guess that's slightly better for that.
That does sound weird now I think about it. But the whole team, if I could just see one simple thing, which I think would be hard to do, is just to lift the spirit. Maybe lift the spirit of St Mary's. That's something that we can all do as fans, and it's hard to generate and it's hard to start. But if we could just make that fortress again, we'd have a chance coming towards the end of the season. And some of those games at Sheffield United, who else is it? Brighton are coming to St Mary's. Like those sort of games that we need to be rock solid. So let's make St Mary's a fortress again.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. We have a couple of questions here, but they mostly revolve around people that we would like to see brought in. And one guy, James Willis, who put out a poll earlier this week asking if Phil Jones would be the guy. To his credit, and this is I won't say the word because this is potentially a family show. I don't know. I think some people listen with their kids, but he did put down as one of the questions basically for people just to tell him to F off, which I thought was great. But that's kind of how I feel. I think that's how I voted. I don't want Phil Jones. And mostly for me, it's because it doesn't fit what the club has said they wanted. And maybe that changes if relegation really becomes an issue. And, maybe all of a sudden they say, well, we're going to put some money in to try to just keep the team up. And we'll go back to, trying to build up younger players, later on down the road. So maybe Phil Jones comes in and just on loan or something like that and just tries to keep us up. But I don't necessarily feel like that's the way I want to see things go. I'd like to see our players be given the chance to either do it or not. And if that means we go down, like that really is not what I want to say, but then that's what it is. If our players aren't good enough and we're going to commit to this style of play and this style of building the club, then we got to commit to it. And if I don't know if that's a bad way to look at it or not.
No, I think a lot of feeling, and sometimes I do, is what are we buying? In January, what are we buying from? Elanusi, as we've seen him playing at Celtic at the moment, is a very good player. Like he's decent. It didn't work out for him at Southampton. Lamina didn't want to be there. Whatever the real reason and everything that goes on behind the scenes that we'll never know about, he was a decent player when he turned up. Like we had some quality there, but for whatever reason, it hasn't worked out, and it's time for them to go. So where are we spending that money? I think a good idea. So basically, I'm saying, get quality. If you're going to get someone, make sure it's going to work out. Phil Jones, yes, he brings some experience. I'd take him on loan. Sure, if there's an opportunity for that, then I'd take him. I'd have taken Gary Cahill, as you quite rightly say. It doesn't fit with the club's ethos. So sometimes, you've got a hole in a boat. What do? Someone suggests drill another one. And then to stem the flow in one area. I think we'd have a panic if we started taking in players like Phil Jones. It could be a good temporary fix, so brilliant. Do that, but make sure it's not going to cost us in the long run, because the owners of the club don't want to spend more money than they have to. I'd like them to put their hand in their pocket and keep this club up. We can't get by. You get Danso in. I'm sure he's a top lad, but what we've seen of him is he's not even making it into the bench. He's not making it into the first team plans because he's not ready. He's not ready to come in and save this team. So, hey, if Phil Jones can stay injury free and make sure that we stop letting in goals, brilliant. But I don't think he's the answer either.
One concern I have about him is if you put him, Bednarak, and Danny Ings in the matchday squad, that makes Matt Watson's job a lot tougher because the game day faces that those guys make in the midst of all of the action does not make for great photography. And so half the time I think Danny Ings does it on purpose. But yeah. But sometimes even some of the mid-match shots are not great. And then, you trying to use them and do things with them. And it's like, that just doesn't, you cut it out and then you just look at it and it just doesn't, you're just like, I'm going to start over. I'm just going to pick a different player. How's that? Because it's just easier. But some of the faces that will go on are not great. But yeah, I mean, if you had a player you could bring in, have you thought about that? Have you thought about anything like that? Or is it just, you would take a guy like that on loan, but really the long-term health of the club is, I think, most important. And I think sometimes we want fixes right now. And I think sometimes also the owners have to weigh, what are the chances of us staying up, being committed to our way of doing things, versus do we deviate from that in an attempt to just kind of stem the tide and stay up? But then maybe you look at the Mark Hughes situation and was that it? Did we go away from what we really believed was the right way to do things? And then, did it save us? Yes, we managed to stay up, whether that was a result of Swansea or us or him or whatever it was. But then, giving him the job again the next year, does that put us a couple of steps back? And you look at the fallout from the squad and you look at it, but there are so many things that have gone on over the past couple of seasons that it's hard to point to one person or one game or one decision that really has put us here. And I think it's going to take a long time to kind of get us out of it and make things better.
Yeah. I mean, we all were excited as Saints fans. I was as well, that, this was Ralph's transfer window. You get the preseason with the lads. They were winning games. Jay Adams was scoring goals. Everything looked hunky-dory. But that's, again, defensively, we didn't reinforce there. And it's going to come back to bite us. If Danny Ings stopped scoring goals, I mean, say he got injured, what on earth would we do? I mean, I love Shane Long's all-round play, but I don't put him up front to score goals. I put him there to press when the opposition have got the ball. That's why I'd put him there. But we just don't have that goal scorer. So strength in depth is something we don't have. And yet that was Ralph's transfer window. He got the guy he wanted, Jay Adams. That hasn't quite worked out yet. He got Gineppo. He got injured a little bit, but he's a bit lively and a bit of a live wire, a bit of a Bambi sort of legs at times. But but I think he's exciting. I don't know. I think maybe we need that defender. We need someone else to shore up the back. We don't. I mean, when Ralph first came and the optimism was up and it's sky high, we called him, Ralph Hampton. It was when he was bringing up academy players and he was bringing those. What's happened to these academy players? They haven't been playing recently. So I'm not saying youth is the answer, but if that's the model, it suddenly just stopped recently. So where are those guys coming through who are going to go out there and, yeah, they might make mistakes, but they're going to run around for 90 minutes and want to be there to prove that they can have a career in this game. Yeah,
absolutely. I don't know. It's going to be one of those things where I don't even know. I don't even know how to say it. I mean, the end of this year could be extremely telling, with Villa, Chelsea, and then I think it's Crystal Palace just in quick succession. And then, I don't know. I was really hoping we'd be in a better spot right now than where we are.
And I thought this podcast by now would have cheered me up, but it has been the opposite.
Dang it!
And
I'm sorry.
And no, it's not our fault. It's Southampton's fault, and we must remember this. But it is. It's true. It's kind of like, well, what can be done if they don't make a January transfer signing? I mean, I reckon people will march. We keep saying, we're on the march, but I swear we will start marching and demand answers. There needs to be a couple of signings coming in, because that would reassure fans that the club is behind fixing this problem. And I know what you mean. As we always say, is it not better to get relegated, to rebuild and everything? But I think we may never come up. We wouldn't come up for another 5 years. Mm-hmm. So because the Championship is a tough league to get out of. So I hope they do try and fix it. Phil Jones is not the player I would take, but someone of experience that can come in and just lift these youngsters, because that's what they are. They're all I mean, apart from Alex McCarthy, the goalkeeper, you've got young lads who are all under the age of 28 pretty much. So we've got to have that level experience to come in, and that might be the fix at the moment.
Yeah, it's easy to forget how young these guys are and how much they're going through as humans, This is their job, yes, but like, how many of you guys are us, I mean, I for the most part enjoy my job, but there are days where I just don't have it. There are days when lessons go poorly. I'm sure you have gigs where things just aren't happening, and that sucks. And if that's the only thing that people remember about me or you, then that's unfair, because we would say, well, look at all of the other things that we've done where we have been good. And maybe that for some of these players might be at other teams even, and maybe it's been that long. And some people might just go back to just the week or two before. And some people might say like, look, like I'm not, if you put me in to teach a math class, it'd be a disaster. And sometimes, people just aren't asked to do the right things. And I think there's a lot of things that we could point to. And sometimes it's you have to step back and give the people just a bit of grace, on the pitch. But as you said, if there's not something done in January, it's very likely we stop marching on and start marching, on St. Mary's. And that would be
pretty much. Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, so I was just going to say, it's not the want and desire that those players, like, I'll keep repeating this. I've seen it, I get a good judge of character and quite observant person with my job. It's not for the want of trying. It's just not working at the moment. And I hope that we turn that corner as quickly as possible. I mean, that's all that I hope. And keep those fingers crossed. I don't think shouting and complaining is always the way. But I tell you what, it will definitely happen if there's no signings in January.
Yeah, and that's not what anybody wants to see, I don't think. So lots of things that we can't control. We can only hope that they get better. But I mean, you said this hadn't cheered you up. I would say I'm feeling better now. And maybe it's just having the chance to talk to you and laugh a little bit, but both before and now. And I'm sorry, you've had a pretty garbage day, and I apologize to you.
Hey, it's no one's fault, and you're right. Actually, I have really enjoyed it. Obviously, talking about Saints, we love talking about it because that's our team. I wish I just had the answers. That's the thing. I just wish I had that sort of one thing that would just make everything click, and I'd be like, oh right, those days that we had when I watched the goal 2 days ago at Shane Long away at Liverpool, and they'd been rating the away fans, and out of 10, what were the limbs like? How crazy did we go? And they gave us 7.5, which I think is absolutely outrageous. It should have been definitely higher. And those days that we very fondly remember as Saints fans, and I hope those days come back quickly. So I suppose I'm comparing it to that. Those hedonistic days where we're like, wow, how far can this team go? And now we're thinking, how far have we plummeted? And I don't think it's whose fault is it. I think we always look for a blame. Yeah. I'm trying to focus on the fact that this has to get better, rather than say who's to be blamed. Who's to be blamed in this situation. Yeah.
Well, the easy thing is to ask the question of, who do we point to? Who's going to take the brunt of this? But it's much harder to kind of look and go on a bit of a journey, I guess, and really hope that we can get out of it in some way, and just look for that, because that's it. Like you said, it is harder to do that, and it's probably the right thing to do. But look, I don't want to keep you too long, man. Like you've been fantastic with your time, given everything that has happened today, from the sprinkler to the 12-man team sheet. to the parking fiasco.
To the lifetime ban potentially happening and being a bit of a virgin. Yeah, it's been the comments that review. Yeah, it's been one of those days, but it's always a pleasure. I just wish for the listeners right now, I appreciate, anything to do with Southampton, that we're all one big family, and I just hope that we all get through this, and we've got some happier days on the way. They have to be, because if this is as low as it goes at the moment, then hopefully it improves, and then we're happy fans again, singing, and St Mary's is rocking, and I don't get called a mug. I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, that would make everything much nicer, right?
Yeah.
I will say I held back some comments for you earlier. I was going to say, finally they got the pretty one back, some other things like that pre-match, but I was just like, I don't know how that's going to be received by people. Like I just decided no, but I figured I'd tell you here because this is a safe space for me at least.
It's a safe space for me as well. Thank you very much. Yeah, I appreciate that. Listen, I've been exfoliating, I've been moisturising, I'm trying to do all I can to improve the looks. It's not happening. It's not easy. You know what I mean? Especially when a sprinkler's gone in your hair.
Yeah.
And the bouffon's not looking as it should. But no, I appreciate that. It's funny. I just sometimes wish I could retaliate in a fun, playful way as well. But maybe one day I'll be able to.
Yeah. All right. So if you want to get in touch with you, they can do that. I think the easiest way is probably through your website at tomdeacon.co.uk, where people can get in touch with you from social media from there. Also get access to your live dates and things like that. You got some dates coming up in London and also in Manchester. So I'm actually about to sign up for your mailing list right now, just in case you're ever over in this part of the world again. I know you were up in Portland, I think not too long ago. So hope you enjoyed the very similar London, England type weather that Portland experiences.
Indeed.
If you ever want to come down to a nice sunny place, that's where I live. So be more than happy to help you out in that if you get here. So anyway,
happy, man. Thank you so much for having me. And listen, Saints fans, it's going to be all right.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully we'll do this again.
Pleasure. I look forward to it, man.
And that does it for this episode of the Southampton Delivery Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed it. Special thanks this week goes out to Tom Deacon. You can find him on Instagram at Tom Deacon Comedy. You can find him on Twitter at Tom H. Deacon. And you can get everything about Tom, well, not everything, but most things, at tomdeacon.co.uk. Go there for show dates that are upcoming. You can go laugh with him, not at him. I think that's how it works. Anyway, it's always a pleasure to talk to Tom, even when the team doesn't do well. So he will be back on the show at some point in the future. If you want to follow this show while you're on social media and doing all of that stuff, you can. We're at SFCDELL_IVERY on both Twitter and Instagram. We're also on Facebook at facebook.com/SFC Delivery. There are links to those social media websites and links to subscribe to the show on iTunes, Stitcher, Acast, Google Play, TuneIn Radio, or wherever you listen, at southamptondelivery.com, which is the website for the show. So you can go there, you can sign up, you can follow, you can sign up for the newsletter that comes out on Fridays, or you can do none of it, which is what a lot of you do, which is fine too, because you listen, which is the most important thing. Doing the show would be nearly impossible without the partners of the show, so special thanks to the Southampton page, who you can follow on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook for all of your Southampton FC news and needs. And special thanks to Matt Beeling of the We Are Southampton page on Instagram for doing the logo for the show. All music that you heard on this episode comes courtesy of the Free Music Archive at freemusicarchive.org. The intro song is Epic Song by Boxcat Games, and the end of show credits that you're listening to right now is Aim is True by Poddington Bear. As always, I'd just like to say thank you to all the listeners who are out there. I really do appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join us here. If you'd like to support the show, you can do that by leaving a review on iTunes or wherever you listen. It helps other people find out about the show. If you want to do a little bit more than that, you can sign up to support the show at patreon.com/SFC Delivery. You get access to a private chat. You get priority for having your questions answered each and every week. And if you sign up at the $5 a month tier, you get one extra podcast episode a month. But anyway, just thanks for listening. I really do appreciate it. Share the show with some friends. We'll be back next week after Villa. Cross your fingers for 3 points there. Anyway, thank you so much. We will talk to you soon. And until next time, remember that together, we march on.